So if everyone else watching this video is a lot like me, then you're probably going to be trying to find the best possible quality when you're recording your gameplay on PC. And what that means is going through a lot of lossless codecs. What I personally did was I set up a base factor. What I recorded with is Call of Duty World at War's Nazi Zombies mode, playing at 720p with almost all high settings. And I didn't have VSync on. I actually compressed the audio settings for Dxtory, and out of 4 different codecs that I used, the X264, 2 versions of the video codec that comes with Dxtory, and Magic YUV, which is a paid codec, I tried to find the best possible settings. After the video is done, you'll probably learn one of a few things. Either what is the best codec, how to properly record a gameplay, and overall, whether you should actually afford the payment of the codec or not. The first codec that we're going to be looking at is X264 Lossless. Now the frame rate that I had on average fluctuated from 28 FPS to 45 FPS. Didn't really go above 45 unfortunately, but that is because this is a CPU intensive codec. The way that it encodes is that it uses part of your CPU. So the best recommendation I have for it is you need at least a quad to 6 core CPU to use this. The file size for 56 seconds was 559 megabytes, so it honestly did compress really well in 720p compared to all the others. This is actually the smallest file size. So my recommendation is that if you have a strong enough CPU, which this in this day and age you probably will, to use this one. The second codec that we are going to be looking at is the Dxtory video codec in the RGB setting. Now, what I really didn't like about this is the whole file size was huge. For 59 seconds, so about a minute, it came out to 4.55 gigabytes. Now the reason is this is recording literally the one-to-one aspect of what you see on your screen. And the frame rate, however, was very good. It fluctuated from 30 to 60, which I would find very playable considering I get a max FPS of 72 to 84. And it really is good to actually have that. However, my recommendation for this, if you have a secondary hard drive for recording, you should be able to use this, but you stay wary. For under a minute, 4.55 gigabytes, that is completely huge, and that could eat up a lot of space if you're using your primary OS hard drive as your only recording space. Our third codec that we're going to be looking at is the Dxtory YUV 410 codec. Now one thing you're going to notice is that without color correction, this codec is very dark. I honestly don't know why it does that. The color space becomes incredibly dark compared to all the other lossless codecs that I've been using. However, it stayed at the same frame rate that the RGB did, which I would assume because it's still part of the Dxtory codec. However, file size was greatly reduced. 47 seconds resulted in 1.38 gigabytes. That is still very large. I'd say about a minute is almost a gigabyte and a half using YUV 410. However, that is much smaller than RGB, but I will give it the same recommendation. If you have a dedicated hard drive, then use this one. Otherwise, don't. It could kill a lot of space and a little bit of time of gameplay. The fourth and last codec that we'll be looking at is Magic YUV Lossless, which is actually a paid-for codec. I spent $5 on this, however, it is a pay what you will, which means you can pay whatever amount that you feel is right for the codec. I would say as a median, this is probably the most middle codec out of the whole bunch I used. My FPS fluctuated from 29 to 40. Again, really isn't the best when you're playing games. File size for 45 seconds was 1.17 gigabytes, so it is really small. Second smallest file size under Dxtory, actually. If you do have the power and the secondary hard drive to record with this, I'd say use it. It is my favorite codec. Every game is different, obviously. However, this one has been good for me in general. So the data that we can see from this is obviously if you want a small file size and you have a decent enough CPU, you go with lossless from X264. However, if you got a secondary hard drive, then I'd suggest using the Dxtory video codec, either RGB or lossless. However, be wary with the lossless from YUV 410 because it deeply contrasts the gameplay. And if you want a good median that will work with a lot of material, I'd say go with Magic YUV. It does have very good quality, I'd say, and it acts as a good median between all of the separate different codecs. However, ultimately the pricing is like this. X264 is completely free. It is a video for Windows codec that you install, and that's it. It comes with an x86 and x64, so it'll work with Sony Vegas, and it should work with Premiere as well. Dxtory, you pay the $35, and it comes with both, or the video codec with both RGB, YUV, that is in its standard settings. Magic YUV, as I said, you pay whatever you want to. It is a pay as you will, and I do like that. I paid $5 personally because that's what I feel it is worth. However, you can pay up to whatever to whatever. Ultimately, I will continue using either X264 or Magic YUV, but it is the choice of you, the viewer, to decide what you would like to use. My name is Dfanged, and until I can find a better way to describe even more codecs in a bigger format, I'm out. Peace, guys.